everybody. Welcome to my studio. My name is Nathifa, and I am very excited for you all to be joining me on a studio tour today. This space for me is a place of creativity, it's a place where I spend a lot of time, a place where I come to just think, to kind of regroup, to kind of just rest and just receive some time alone. My family spends a lot of time in this space as well. And so for me, it was really important to kind of create a space that was welcoming to them also. So I hope that as we go around the room, you will get a feel for the studio and get a feel for how I use it. So come along and let's take a look around the studio. So this is the entrance into the studio, and over here, I really wanted to kind of, again, my studio for me is a place of like just creativity, and I wanted to create a space that was very kind of inspiring. And so I have a lot of things around the studio that's kind of geared towards making me inspired or just sort of like making me think from a different perspective or a different world. So I have a lot of things to kind of make it kind of whimsy, to add whimsy to the studio and whimsical. And so I wanted to add butterflies to the door. So you can see back there on the door, there are some paper butterflies that are kind of like flying along, because to me, that's just something that's beautiful and is magical. And I wanted to kind of have that in the studio as well. So over here on this back table, this is where I spend a lot of time. I used to spend a lot of time cutting paper and kind of using it as a place to ship items. And now it's sort of just like a place where I store items like materials and supplies that I am going to be using for upcoming seasonal makes. So like, for example, with Christmas coming up, I've gone to my basement studio, my basement storage, and I've grabbed up the supplies that I'm going to need to make Christmas items. And so I have that, and I'll store that up here just so I can have it in close proximity to me when I want to make stuff. So that's what that space is back there. But if you take a look around, you can really just see, I've added like papers to the wall, posters to the wall, vintage type posters to the wall, because for me, again, it's a place of like of inspiration. And I really wanted myself to be inspired. I wanted people to come in here and feel like they were in a different world. So that's kind of what I did there. So over on this side of the studio, I have my inks. This is where I store all of my distress inks. I have alcohol inks over here. My studio again is at an angle, and so for me, I needed to find ways to store things because I don't have the full entire wall around the entire studio. And so anytime I could find a space that was like that had a full entire wall, I was going to use that space to store things. And so I just have my inks on some acrylic shelving, and I think it's like for nail polish bottles. And so it really has been really helpful because it allows me to see all the colors that I want to see. And it's one of those things of where it's like, I need to see to be inspired too. And so I love seeing all the colors, and I can just grab what I need and put it back as needed. So it's been really great, a great addition to the studio for me. So over here is my closet. I just have a curtain in front of it because I don't really like to see all the messes that I make. So it's a way for me to kind of like just hide all the stuff that's in there. But it's a storage space. It's not the biggest closet in the world, but for me, it's just a way to kind of like secure things that I don't use all the time. So like, for example, my heater for the wintertime, when it gets really cold in the studio, I have it in there, or like additional papers and stuff. So I can show you just a little snippet of it in here. Um, but it's really messy in there, honestly. And I wasn't going to clean it up. So I just have a curtain on here. And I think the curtains just sort of allow it to be kind of softer, and it allows it to be kind of cozier. So I love that addition to it. And so that's what's back there. I would say one of my most favorite things about my studio space is my teepee. This was something that I dreamt about for a very long time. And for me, it's a place where I can come and just cocoon a little bit. I know that for me, I love quiet time. I need quiet time to just get my thoughts together. And so even though the studio is available to me, sometimes, I just need to go somewhere else inside the studio where I can kind of just think about the future, think about ideas that I have. And for me, this is what the teepee is. And so I just got a regular teepee off of Amazon, and I added some silk scarves to it. I put some pillows in there, and I have a little table right here that I can use to do work on. And so for me, it's just, again, it's a place where I can just cocoon. I can go in there and take a nap if I want to, if I just want to kind of get away from everybody. If there are people in the studio that I love to be here, but also want to kind of get away from, I can go in there. And so for me, it's a really unique space inside the studio, and I really do love it. So um, that's my cocoon space. So that's why I love the teepee very, very much inside the studio. So in this area, this is where I paint, and so it's a cozy corner. It has my easel, the canvases that I use. It has my paints on this side of the room. They're stored in bins. They're stored in baskets, and I also have some of the envelopes that I've created, some of the works that I've created. I am a really big believer in displaying your work inside your home, because I think it allows you to kind of continuously define who you are as an artist. I think that it's bringing honor to your work, and so I think you should really display it. Don't just stack them up and just sort of like leave them, hidden. I think you should always display your work. So that's one of the reasons why I have this little section of the studio where I have some artwork and I have my envelopes that are kind of on display here. It's a very cozy corner. So now we're going to move over to my desk area. This is the area where I do a lot of my digital work. So I design greeting cards as well, and some other digital art. And so I do that here on my laptop. I have some drawers that stores like pens. I have some other like pieces to make, art or whatever in here. I've got candles. I've got things to write letters to people. I've got a basket where I store some envelopes that I can just grab and use when I'm writing a letter to somebody. On the back wall here is where I kind of store just some quotes. I love quotes. I love words. And so I tend to store quotes or just things that I feel like God had spoken to me. And I'll write them down and just sort of put them on a sticky note, put them around so I can continuously be inspired by it. So I have some of my artwork on here, some of the portraits that I've done, things that other people have given me, and whatnot. And so one of the coolest things that I did was to use a transfer on my desk. I think it's just really beautiful. And for me, again, I'm trying to add whimsy to the studio. And so this transfer kind of just allowed me to kind of like just make a regular desk that I purchased off Amazon, to make it unique, which is something that I'm always trying to do. So this is just the area that I kind of do a lot of just like business type work in. And so, yeah, I love it. So we are now moving over to the other side of the room over here. I have my printers over here, my printing station. On the printing station, I have a lot of like magazines and vintage books. Again, it's just really for inspiration and to look pretty. I look in these sometimes, but honestly, it's just to look pretty and for me to feel like I'm in a different space in my world. So I have some mannequins, some candles. I've got a lamp that kind of just makes the room more, even more cozier. And so that's kind of what this little station is. I've got, a place to print labels to ship things out to people if I need to. And so it's just a printing station. And it's a beautiful printing station, I'll say that. And so now we're kind of getting into where I do the majority of my artwork. Over here is my filming station. It's why I do a lot of my mixed media work where I'm doing like envelopes or just a layout. It's all over here. And so, and I'll bring you a little bit closer, but you can see I have shelves on the back wall. I've collaged the back wall because, again, I needed to look pretty, but I've added shelves on the back wall because I found that I was reaching for a lot of materials all the time, and it was just kind of like crowding my workspace. And so the easiest thing for me to do was just to put some shelving right across from me, so I could just reach out and grab it as I needed items, and that has worked out really well for me. And again, storage space is kind of at a premium here in the studio, and so anytime I can use a wall to kind of store things, I do that. And so this is kind of like my little space. I've got a little boom arm here. I think it's called a boom arm. Is it a boom arm? I think it's what it's called. But I just attach my camera to it and I just film directly down onto my workspace if I'm filming like a course or something. If I'm just filming stuff for social media, I use my iPhone, and I have an iPhone holder that will attach to that, and I just sort of film down as well. And so I've really kind of I've removed or changed the studio has evolved. So I've changed things around a lot because when I'm in a certain season or I'm making certain things, like when I was making like products to sell, like mugs to sell or things in the studio, it looked very different. And for me now, this works because it allows me to have a very open studio space where, again, my family can hang out with me. I can do other things besides just film and make art. I don't need a tripod anymore for that, for the film. I can definitely just use this. So over in this area here, I have more storage space. You can see back here, I have all of my my distress paints. Again, I use wall space because my walls are short. And so I have those on acrylic shelves back there. I have this shelf over here where I store a lot of other items like my washi tapes. I have my, the middle shelf is really the place where I kind of put items that I'm going to be using for seasonal makes. So like what's up next, you know, what's on deck. I have my Halloween stuff in this basket that I can just pull out and just use those items to create Halloween stuff if I wanted to. I've got some papers, I've got my gloves and like all my additional papers that I love to use when I'm creating, and I have them in baskets and kind of whatnot. I also have some like vintage bottles up here, some books to kind of inspire me again that I can just sort of take a look at, and just sort of additional items here. So this is kind of like my on deck storage space. So the things that I'm going to be working on, that's what I store here. So at the bottom here, what I'm not showing you is like all the stamps and other product that I have to use to make items coming up that I haven't, that I can't show you yet. So, but I have them all kind of laid out here so I know what's up next, what I need to work on next, and just like I have them kind of like staggered, like, okay, you're up this week, you're up, you know, I need to ship you next week. So that's kind of what I use this space for as well. So over in this section is where I have some shelving in front of the windows of the studio. This is where I store all of my stamps. I store all my stamps here. I store my die cuts here, my dies here for die cutting over on this side. And it just works for me because I love to see things. I get inspired by my product and by the supplies that I have. And so for me to kind of just like flip through and see them really easily, it inspires me to create all the time. And so that's what I use them for. On the bottom and kind of over here are some additional art supplies. But on the bottom here is where I have the props that I use to do my flat lays. I do flat lays a lot and I love creating them. And I love to use vintage materials and vintage props. And so I have those stored on the bottom here to kind of just help me kind of see them because that's what I'm going to use them. Underneath my futon behind me is where I store the mats for my flat lays. And so like the surfaces you see in my photos on Instagram, I store them underneath the futon because I need them to lay flat. So it's kind of messy underneath there, but that's where I store my some paper, some butcher block paper, and I also store all of my flat lays, the backgrounds, the backdrops for those. So behind me is the futon, and I always want like a big seating area in my studio, no matter where it is, because for me, it's a way for my family to feel like they're invited into the space. And so they can come in here and they can sit down. They take naps in here all the time. They are like snoring when I'm trying to work. And I'm like, could you please leave? Please, you're too loud. But they'll hang out in here. They will play, kind of like, you know, games on their tablets. They'll just sort of hang out with me, and it creates a cozy spot. So I've got like a blanket on there. I've got some pillows and stuff that are kind of on top, but they can grab pillows from the teepee and take a nap if they wanted to. So that's kind of what I use that space for. I also use that space to kind of read as well. If you see over on this side, there's a table back here, right here, that I can, I have books kind of stacked, and I always am reading something or listening to something. So I'll sit there and I'll read a lot and kind of just reflect a little bit because it's near the window. And so I'm able to kind of do that in a way that is refreshing for me. Okay, and so this area back here is where my husband, that's his area. So my husband's working on his PhD, and so he's writing a lot of papers. He's like doing a lot of homework, and he would come in here and sit on the futon, but he would leave his books everywhere, and it drove me nuts. I would be like, sir, could you please move your stuff? You know, and so I decided just to create a space for him where he could feel like he could sit down and actually do some work. So it's not necessarily the prettiest space, but he has some nice posters to look at. I think that's cool, but that's where he does his homework and kind of uses that space to kind of um, do more academic type stuff. So that's his space. So the last space that I want to share with you all is this area right here. I just put together two 4-foot tables and to create a long work surface. And I really wanted to have a space that I could just kind of spread everything out because I wanted to keep the middle open. So I don't have a table in the middle of the studio. But I wanted to, create a work surface that I could, kind of just like use for cutting paper, for testing things out, putting things together. If I needed to create an assembly line, I needed a space for that. So this is what this table is. And I just really just put like some contact paper on top of it. I will say that, underneath these tables, I have some additional storage. And for me, I don't like to see, again, I don't like to see my messes that I make. And so these curtains allow me to kind of just hide, the table skirts allow me to hide what's underneath here. So you can kind of see I've got some shelving underneath there, but I just hide it, and it always, it's like instant cleaning of the studio is when I close those up. So I don't have to worry about too much. But on the table, I have my some of my paper cutters. I have some paper cutters. I have some of my all of my wax seal stamps that I use. I've got some vintage items that I use for props and whatnot. And I also have some of my additional stamps, and I have my distress pin. So it's a really, it's a really cool space for me, and it just allows me to kind of have more surface area in the studio. So that's what this space is. So for the ceiling, I just cut out some black stars out of cardstock, and it was just a way to kind of add additional whimsy to the studio. I love it. I think it just sort of, it grounds the room a little bit for me. I don't know. I just really do. And I love it. Sometimes the stars will fall down, and it's a way for me to be reminded that no matter how successful I get in anything, that at any point the star can fall. And so to be humble, to be gracious, and to be grateful for everything you experience. So that's the ceiling. So thank you guys for joining me on a studio tour. I hope it was a fun tour for you all. If you have any questions about anything, always just let me know. Happy to answer any questions. But thanks for coming along and just learning a little bit more about how I use my studio and just taking a tour around. So I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.